Hey guys, what's up? Since the PlayStation 2 is technically the mother of RPG hidden gems, it was only natural for me, 2.5 years later, to come up with a part 3. So here we go, 10 more hidden JRPG gems for the masterpiece that is the PlayStation 2. Let's begin! Number 10. Wizardry, Tale of the Forsaken Land. Wizardry is one of the most important RPG series of all time that was kind of abandoned by the original creators, Sir Tech. The last one released by them was Wizardry 8 back in 2001. Now, since the early 90s, Japanese developers started abusing the franchise, creating a million spin-offs throughout the decades. This PS2 title is one of the very few released outside of their country. Now, let me give you a fair warning with this game. It's a great RPG depending on your tastes for difficult games, because we're talking about a highly unbalanced turn-based RPG that acts as a classic dungeon crawler in first person. Most enemies will be a complete walk in the park at first, but all of a sudden you might encounter some that can kick your sorry ass with a few attacks. Like many of the old school games in this sub-genre, it's a natural grindfest, with no save points inside the dungeons, which means you'll be teleporting back to town quite often. Else you wanna have a miserable experience with your whole exploration completely wasted. Highlights here are the character design and the story, which is intrinsically dark and deep, surrounded by tragedy. Characters will decide if they wanna band together with you or not, depending on your choices and responses. So like I said, it's a brutally hard JRPG, but it can be an acquired taste if you endure its unpleasant surprises. Number 9. Phantom Brave. Here is another example of a big grindfest that can be brutal if you don't know what you're doing. It's part of the Disgaea series, so imagine. However, it has its own touches which differentiate it from the aforementioned franchise. Basically, you'll be moving around ranged areas with an isometric board. The main character, Marona, has to confine her allies, which are phantoms in this case, to objects. This is done in order to summon them in battle. Objects have different status, which means knowing where to confine what character is the key to building your strategies. The Disgaea games are known for having a class system that adds up to the gameplay mechanics. In Phantom Brave though, this plays a crucially important role because even if your characters are overpowered, they can be useless against certain types of enemies if confined to the wrong object. Overall, Phantom Brave is kinda hard to get into, but it's a true hidden gem if you love Disgaea-like games with all their shenanigans. And by the way, this is the vanilla version. An enhanced port exists on the Wii and the PSP. Number 8. Okage, Shadow King. Another highly unknown turn-based RPG, thankfully re-released digitally on the PS4, is Okage Shadow King. It's a silly game but with a great sense of humor and super deformed characters, literally. And the story, trust me, it's long and hard to explain considering how bizarre it is. However, it's a comedy revolving around an evil king bound to the main character, so you'll get the idea in no time. Now, because Stan, the evil king, is attached to the protagonist, he will help him with powerful magic attacks during battle. Other characters will join the party as the quest moves on, each with their own elemental strengths and weaknesses. The charm of this game is what really counts here, as it is so twisted and strange, almost as if Tim Burton had something to do with it. Other than that, it's a simplistic and traditional RPG, but in terms of humor and character design, it does stand out a lot since there's really nothing like it. Number 7. Dual Hearts. This is the successor to the Alondra games on the PS1. Technically speaking, it's, well, Alondra 3. Its context corresponds to the ideas of the first game as it relies on puzzle solving. You also go inside people's dreams to find the keys to unlock doors guarding some holy instruments. The protagonists are Rumble and Tumble. You heard that right. This unlikely pair of characters. Rumble needs to find the mysterious Dreamstone for personal reasons, and Tumble needs to find the instruments. Their goals align, so they journey together across these dreamlands. I gotta say, while the camera and the controls aren't exactly the best out there, it plays fairly well. Puzzles and enemies are easy at the beginning, but they get more enigmatic and fiercer as you advance. I like the boss fights. Some of them can be truly creative, adding a lot to the fun. There's only one town in the game where you'll meet the several people that are the gateways to the dream areas. It's also the place where you'll get various quests from NPCs. Dual Hearts is a fun game. I believe it wasn't appreciated for being released quite early on the PS2 era, with zero marketing done from Atlus USA. Number 6. MS Saga: A New Dawn. A very good looking turn-based RPG, part of the enormous universe of the Gundam franchise. Actually, its Japanese name is Gundam True Odyssey: The Legend of the Lost G. Subtitle is vague, but I feel the original name is better. This game's all about customizing the mobile suits, which are the mechs, so they can partake in battles against different enemies. This customization is the core of the gameplay, and without a proper one, the game can be either normal or quite challenging. Anyway, it's got a neat story revolving around a post-apocalyptic world where humans are trying to rebuild. It follows Tristan in a quest for revenge against the mobile suits that destroyed the orphanage he grew up in. It's a charming adventure, alright, that basically tries to emulate the traditional RPG gameplay and cliches some of us grew up with. And if you're wondering about having to play the other Gundam games to understand this one, don't worry, it's a standalone title. Give it a try if you can, well, if you find it for a decent price. Number 5. Crimson Tears. Many out there, including the publisher Capcom, will say this isn't a role-playing game per se. I disagree, it has everything it needs to be one. We'll get to that later. Leaving the alluring sexualization apart, the game's story is somewhat intriguing. It follows the quest of these 3 androids, which are more like humanoid weapons. It's post-apocalyptic as well, but the main journey centers around these guys trying to solve the mystery about their past and the destruction of their home base. It's an action RPG with randomly generated dungeons. Every time you enter one of them, it'll be a different layout. They're like labyrinths, for so to say, and you'll need to find one or several keys to open the doors to the next floor. At the end of every dungeon, you'll fight a boss, and this is where the game will show its true challenging nature. It's hard, alright, but nothing really brutal. You can only take one character with you, but if they're defeated, another one can take over from the start. At the Ruined City base, you'll be able to buy items, upgrade skills, customize your weapons and armor. There will be several side quests here, but nothing too fancy. Man, I love the style of this game. Those cel-shaded graphics always look beautiful on the PlayStation 2. And as a beat-em-up, dungeon crawler, action RPG, or whatever you wanna call it, it delivers a satisfying experience with great combos and awesome controls. Number 4. Shining Tears. Speaking about tears, here's Shining Tears. No, it has nothing to do with the previous game, but it's also an action RPG that takes place in one location, the city of Shieldia. Your amnesiac protagonist with mysterious dark powers will join a mercenary group trying to defend the city from the evil Runeveil army. Sounds cliché, I know, but I guarantee it's one of those stories that get better the more you play it. I've covered this game a few times this year, so you're probably already familiar on what's it about. Basically, you'll go through occasional small missions to advance the story, until eventually you'll unlock the main one per chapter. These are long, challenging, and usually with a boss waiting at the end. As you can see, there's only one party member you can take with you per battle. Some will work better against certain types of enemies, so it's up to you to decide who to bring with you on what missions. I recommend sticking with only 1 or 2, but that's just my opinion. The game has a 2-player local cooperative mode, so it's obviously best to play it with somebody else. Overall, this is a fantastic RPG, somewhat forgotten, but definitely a great hidden gem. Number 3. Soul Nomad and the World Eaters. another RPG in the Disgaea series, still tactical and still grid based. I personally think it's one of the best, surpassing even some of the Disgaea games. Story is another bizarre case with dark humor, as this series is known for. Your main character will be stuck with an evil god that'll give them power enough to unify a rebellion against the World Eaters. Battles will take place on terrain-affected maps, but it doesn't revolve much around that. Instead, buying characters with different jobs and classes will play a more strategic value. These formations affect the outcome of every battle. Keep playing and you'll be getting more and more rooms, which are basically the formations you'll want to customize. You can't control at all the flow of battle, only influence it by what you have equipped and what type of characters you chose for each team. Once they make contact with an enemy, they'll fight against them like in the Ogre Battle series. It sounds complicated, I know, but the good side of it is that this game is somewhat easy compared to most of the Disgaea games and spin-offs. That doesn't mean it won't deliver a challenge as it progresses though. Soul Nomad is an excellent game. It may have some small downs, but the majority of it is one big up for such a hidden gem. Number 2. Arc the Lath, Twilight of the Spirits. Also known as Arc the Lath 4, it's more of a reboot to the original series on the PS1, still a strategy RPG but one where you move on small areas instead of grids. This battle system is amazing and it does stand out for playing around with terrains and obstacles that you can take advantage of, but the selling point of this beautiful gem lies with its dual story. You'll play one chapter with the human party and another one with the demon party. These two races deeply hate each other, but little by little will overcome their differences. So seeing their struggles, trying to embrace their beliefs as they realize they need to grow up and change perspectives, makes this journey a valuable life lesson and a wholesome experience. Story alone is enough to play this excellent game, and with that battle system, what more could you ask for? It's also dirt cheap physically, and even better, it was also re-released on the PS4 digitally. Number 1 is Sakura War So Long My Love. I know I talked about this game a million times and I promise I will leave this game alone, but god damn it, it fit the criteria perfectly. PS2 RPG hidden gems? It had to be here. Yep, it's a cross-genre, mixing visual novel elements with puzzles, constant decision making, and last but not least, a great battle system. This is another strategy RPG, but one that won't really feel like one as there's no normal experience points, which means your characters will get stronger through the hero's bonds with the ladies. Yeah, how? By making decisions on several different scenes, of course. Everything is so well done here, it's so interactive, you'll easily forget it's classified as a visual novel RPG. It's also quite manageable and short, which is the reason why I often recommend these for beginners. But yeah, I know it's rare and expensive nowadays, can't do anything about that. Find a way to play it though, as this game is nearly a masterpiece. Now before we end the video, I just want to say that about honorable mentions, maybe a lot of people are going to mention the Art Tonelico games or the Manakimia games. However, I've always considered these games more like underrated, like I don't see them as hidden gems because I'm pretty sure they're somewhat popular, slightly more known than your average extremely unknown games, right? Those are the ones that are true hidden gems. Not these games, or even some of the ones that I showed in the other two videos from 2 or 3 years ago. I was also going to include Ys 6, the Ark of Napishtim, but I think at this point, thankfully, the Ys series is no longer a hidden gem. They're quite popular, somewhat mainstream, and they're getting there on the Hall of Fame. Thank you very much for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!